the relationship with the products is changing because consumers pay way more attention. They want to know the story of the product they use, especially if they need to wear them, especially if they can come in contact with the skin. And therefore, this is impacting the way fashion is produced, the way fashion is communicated, the way fashion is worn. And so we see like this convergence between like wellness, well-being, and fashion, something that we call holistic well-being, this attention of consumers towards a well-being that touches different aspects of their life.
That is Martina Rocca, foresight lead at WGSN. Hello and welcome to the Create Tomorrow podcast. I'm your host, Cassandra Napoli, head of marketing and events insight at WGSN. Every 2 weeks, I will take you on a journey to examine how brands and consumers are creating tomorrow, whether that's through product innovations, actions and strategies, or online behaviors. Today's episode will explore biomaterials. We'll hear about the role and impact of sustainable, performance-driven textiles equipped with bioactive ingredients and how they're being designed with planet and skin health in mind. Joining me to discuss this topic is Martina Rocca, foresight lead at WGSN, and Rosie Broadhead, founder of SkinSeries, a textile research and development company. Martina, can you please tell our listeners who you are and what you do at WGSN?
Hi, Cassandra. Hi, everyone listening. So my name is Martina Rocca, and I am a cultural foresighter, and I lead the foresight division at WGSN. So we provide our clients with key insight, actions, and tools to think long-term, to build resilience, and to develop something I call anti-fragility, which is the ability to navigate an uncertain, complex, and volatile market and consumer future.
Great. And now, Rosie, can you please tell our listeners who you are?
Hello, everyone. I'm Rosie Broadhead, a textile researcher and designer and founder of SkinSeries, which is a textile innovation platform focusing on natural yet performance-driven textiles for the skin health and well-being. And as a designer, I focus on textiles and the skin interaction and how we can provide therapeutic benefits through what you're wearing.
Great. Martina, I'm going to come to you first. So in a forecast for 2026, we called out the bio-industrial revolution, where we said that bio-design will reshape materials, ingredients, supply chains, aesthetics, as it really gears up for more mainstream adoption. Can you tell our listeners what biomaterials are and how they are reshaping the fashion industry?
Sure. So biomaterials are basically materials that are derived from, inspired by, or designed to interact with living biological systems. So they can be natural materials, for example, cellulose, collagen, or silk, or they can be engineered, such as bioplastic or bioleather. They are used across a very wide range of sectors and industries, such as the medical industry, fashion industry, design, architecture, and skincare. Specifically in fashion and design, they are often used as sustainable ecological alternatives to conventional materials because they offer a lower environmental impact.
Yeah, and so from that same forecast, which was, I guess, in 2023 or 2022, it was for the forecasted year of 2026. So it's nice to see all of this really coming to the fore now. But at the time, we said that biomaterials, the investment in the space was increasing. They saw a 14% year-on-year uptick in funding back in 2022, reaching $2.2 billion. And we actually saw that the forecast said that economic impact of this sector is set to grow to $4 trillion over the next 20 years. I'm wondering if you can tell our listeners what we can expect from biomaterials as a sector within the fashion industry in the coming decades.
The biomaterial industry is set to grow incredibly in the next 10 years, and this is driven by mainly three factors: the innovation in the biotech industry, sustainability demands and sustainability targets pushed forward by policymakers, governments, international and national, but also shifting consumer values. So first of all, as I mentioned, investment in biotechnology infrastructures will scale up and accelerate production. So we will see tools such as bioreactor, fermentation systems, and biomanufacturing hubs, making biomaterial more cost competitive and more accessible to any scale of industry, from small industry to large scale industries. Also, advances in synthetic biology and also AI-driven design, we allows material to be engineered with specific qualities. So we start engineering the materials, kind of infusing specific qualities. Think about self-healing materials, regenerative materials, antimicrobial material, biodegradable, or materials that are able to adapt to climate conditions. And this is extremely important in a future that is going to be climate changed, so changed by climate conditions. And here, of course, Rosie is an innovator, but I often bring the example of another sort of biodesign innovators and leaders. Her name is Maca Barrera, and she developed a fashion collection called Melwear. The collection is still speculative, but Maca is pushing this to become a reality. And the collection is basically a tracksuit made with bacteria-derived melanin that will offer a natural barrier by UV exposure to humans. So basically this membrane, this material, mimic the same mechanism of a natural skin that uses melanin, so it darkens up to protect the human body from UV rays.
Amazing. Now, Rosie, I'm going to come to you now. You're the founder of SkinSeries, which develops sustainable, performance-driven textiles with bioactive ingredients designed to enhance skin health. The focus of the brand is on creating clothing that interacts beneficially with the skin by using natural materials and innovative technologies, really offering an alternative to synthetic fibers. Can you tell us about what prompted you to build this type of business and why you felt that there was a need in the market?
Okay, sure. Thank you for the question. And thank you, Martina, for your insights. Super interesting. So my background is in fashion design, and I specifically worked in the research and development sector in sportswear and activewear. And this sector is really focusing on how what you're wearing can really influence your body. So this could be like the type of fiber texture or the kind of finish that is added to your textiles, whether it's like a waterproofing finish or an aerodynamic texture, or perhaps it's something that is more about keeping you bright in low-level lighting, for example. So there's many different ways in which textiles can be a key driver for functionality. And I was noticing in the industry that really focuses on performance and technology, that often what we're wearing, especially next to our skin as an athlete or as a sports person, that these materials often included synthetic materials, also chemicals, perhaps heavy metals, formaldehyde. These kind of chemicals are quite present in these sorts of functional, performance-driven textiles. So I was thinking about this textiles and skin interaction. I've always been fascinated by what we're wearing and how we can drive functionality through what you're wearing, and thinking about the body itself, like what exists inside the body, what exists in nature that is also performance driven, and how can we access something from biology or something within nature itself to have functionality through what we're wearing. So this led me to look more into the skin microbiome specifically, because this is something that is a kind of invisible layer between the textiles and the skin. And I guess a layer that is really driving skin health and also interacts with these two surfaces. So this led me to kind of focus on how we can maybe manipulate the skin microbiome or use other ingredients within nature, such as algae or vitamins and things like that, and how we can utilize these as a wearable material.
Yeah, and you talked about a little bit about your design journey prior to this, right? You worked in menswear, you worked in sort of athletic wear, performance wear in the textile space. I guess, were those opportunities for you really foundational to the work that you're putting out now?
My background in menswear, I would say that it's really focusing on certain rules. It's kind of inspired by utilitarian military clothing, which is really about, yeah, function first, the placement of a pocket or the top stitching. And you can really obsess over these kinds of details, which is something that I was really fascinated about. And I think that this kind of level of performance-driven design kind of also led to my interest in sportswear, and really how that you can kind of manipulate the performance, or you can change the performance of a body through what you're wearing. And this has been inherent to how I've kind of approached my my design work and also gone into research to kind of inform the next steps of my textiles development and designs.
We at WGSN have been exploring biotech and biomaterials for about a decade, ensuring that the complex, valuable information around these topics are really communicating with clarity to our clients, right? So, in your work, which is characterized by really complex scientific processes, how do you manage to communicate this complexity to your audiences so that they get it?
I think that depending on the audience, you kind of have to adapt your message. So I think the good thing is in the last 5 or 6 years that I've been working on microbiome driven clothing or therapeutic textiles, the understanding of the skin microbiome has changed. We are seeing a lot more probiotic based cosmetics, for example, in the market. I think there is a general better level of understanding of what the skin microbiome is. However, I try not to go straight in with trying to explain what these words are because they are still quite loaded, and also, so I try and focus really about what might the benefits be rather than what is it.
Great. And now switching gears slightly, at WGSN, we've been tracking this convergence of fashion and wellness, where consumers are increasingly focusing on fashion as a form of expression, but also as a means to really take care of their body. So, Martina, can you talk about how we got here and what we can expect from the integration of fashion and wellness when it comes to what we put on our bodies in the coming years from a very macro consumer level?
So consumers now pay way more attention to what is healthy. And the hierarchy of priorities of consumers has very much shifted. So now consumer pays a lot of attention to wellness and health uh, on anything, on any product they use, from what they use to nourish and nutrition, sports, outdoor, mental health, but also this comes also through fashion. So what do you wear? What material do you use? Where do they come from? I think the relationship with physical product, because of this, because of the pandemic, but also because we are kind of still navigating a sort of compound holistic crisis, a phenomenon that in WGSN we define as polycrisis. And this is kind of impacting the emotional ecosystem of consumers. So we see consumers kind of navigating very complex and difficult emotion, positive, but also negative. And negative are anxiety, stress, fear. So in this emotional ecosystem, the relationship with the products is changing because consumers pay way more attention. They want to know the story of the product they use, especially if they need to wear them, especially if they can come in contact with the skin. And therefore, this is impacting the way fashion is produced, the way fashion is communicated, the way fashion is worn. And I think this is kind of connecting fashion with well-being more and more, because consumer wants to wear not only garments that are beautiful and aesthetically pleasing, but also garments that perhaps are healthy. They don't have harming chemical. They're not polluting. They don't bring like this social heaviness, the social element in which maybe they were producing like very non-human conditions. And so we see like this convergence between like wellness, well-being, and fashion, something that we call holistic well-being, this attention of consumers towards a well-being that touches different aspects of their life.
Okay, Rosie, how do you see this shift unfolding in your area of expertise? How did you see fashion materials and processes evolving over time to meet our wellness needs? And how should our clients begin to sort of embrace this shift?
Okay. I think that in the time that I've been working on or focusing on the skin microbiome, which to define the skin microbiome is the bacteria, millions of bacteria that is living on our skin. And that is similar to the bacteria living in our environment, living in our gut, in our bodies. It's very much the same on our skin. And this living layer on our skin is very important to the health of our skin and the health of our bodies, and which is very similar to how we talk about our gut. We take probiotics or we take ferments for our gut. It's very similar on the skin. So this is something that you might see more if you perhaps have like a skin condition or a skin disease. But in general, people are taking more notice of what they put on their bodies and on their skin. And in general, I think that we are more in tune with what our bodies need. In this new world, we're not getting the same vitamins and minerals from the food. We're not getting enough vitamin D from our environment, where a lot of people in Europe are low on vitamin D, for example. So sometimes we have to get these extra things from other areas as well. So I focus on textiles and clothing. So what's interesting about the skin microbiome is also that because we're wearing textiles next to our body every day, our clothing also develops a microbiome. So you can really influence your skin microbiome from what you're wearing. So this, by wearing something like perhaps like a garment that is synthetic or perhaps prone to like the growth of like an unhealthy bacteria, which you might notice if it starts to smell. Often you see this in like polyester nylon sportswear. This can have like a knock-on effect on your skin microbiome. This is another example is female intimate health. We're often encouraged to wear cotton or natural underwear. This is because synthetic underwear is prone to having a dysbiosis and it can lead to diseases or infections and things like that. So we really focus on incorporating textiles with not only natural or breathable materials, but something that is encapsulated with healthy bacteria that is already existing on your body. It's already present. It's already there, but we want to add in more of an abundance of it because there may be a dysbiosis, for example. So one of the projects that I focus on is using a native skin bacteria that is natural to our underarms or areas that we're more likely to sweat. So the encouragement of this particular bacteria will have a positive effect on your skin's immune system, encouraging cell renewal, and it also has a positive effect on your body odor. So with a kind of performance benefit like that, you can start to look at how you might be able to replace antimicrobial ingredients in your textiles clothing, which often contain metals or silver, these kinds of things, which we're already trying to avoid in other areas of our life as well.
Also, if you think about the world of sport is changing, there is a lot of sports now that are becoming mainstream. For example, long distance running, and there the materials are essential because of friction while we run. There is athletes that are doing like 120 kilometers marathon, so they run for like 10 hours. And therefore the friction is really affecting their body. So we see, for example, silk emerging as like a niche material in sport because of its softness, because of this transferability. So I think the shift is going to happen also in parallel with the evolution that is unfolding in the world of sport, that is becoming more and more central to our life. And while before sports were kind of relegated to like a side of our life, now is becoming almost like a core of our lifestyle and our behavior, because it brings many aspects, not only the athleticity, but also emotional health, mental health, community, sense of belonging, interaction with people. So sport is really shifting in its role in society, and I think all the material, the fashion is going to kind of trickle down from this shift.
I'm wondering where price and cost come into play, though, right? Because we see so many young people in particular flocking to those plastic leggings, right? Because they are, $10 and they can afford that in a poly-crisis era. Do you think price and cost from a materiality perspective in terms of, more sustainable options, do you think they're just out of reach for the majority of consumers right now?
It is new, so there is a lot of R&D that goes into this. And I think naturally some of these biotech innovations are a little bit more expensive than what's already out there. And I think often perhaps it's a narrative or the expectation is that we're trying to replace these technologies with something that already exists. So you think, oh, well, I'm already purchasing this at this price, so this is kind of what I expect for this. But it's a whole different set of materials and a whole different, I guess, set of benefits and performance attributes associated with it. So we can't necessarily say, oh, this alternative leather should be the same price of what's already there necessarily. But I think we try and aim for something that is around no more than 10% more than what's on the market.
I'm going to switch gears a bit again. So, in our STEPIC 2025 and 2026 forecasts, we've introduced the importance of something called strategic imagination, being this critical tool for brands to really thrive in a complex and a very volatile consumer market landscape. Martina, can you expand on this? Please define what we mean by strategic imagination and what value it adds to businesses in the marketplace.
Brands need to shift a bit their gears and embrace new tools. And we use strategic imagination to define this new mindset. Basically, strategic imagination is a way of thinking about a problem from an unusual and unique perspective. And the first instrument that you can use to do this on a conceptual level is to ask the question, what if? What if a brand or our brand becomes circular? What if we appoint nature as our only stakeholder? What if all the products that we put out in the world are their materials, the ingredients can be disposed, and when they are disposed, they regenerate natural ecosystem? What if we target our consumers not as passive entities, but as engaged citizens, as part of our brand community? So this is a powerful tool to kind of start triggering and cultivating strategic imagination. And within strategic imagination, we have other tools. For example, we have critical thinking, we have speculative thinking, we have like even artistic imagination. That can be a very valuable tool to imagine the future and kind of start embodying and driving this future.
Amazing. Now, Rosie, I'm going to come to you now.
So I think probiotic textiles really started as a speculative design project. I hadn't actually implemented it. Sure, I had some bacteria that my collaborator sent me in the mail, but I was really just playing around initially. And so I think it's through framing this or bringing my design background and also kind of, I guess, making it desirable, making it into something that people can actually connect with emotionally. It really gave me, I guess, like encouragement to think that this is actually something that people want, or this is something that people can get on board with. And so that led me to move into the lab where I've been developing it over a series of years. And now this speculative design is actually something that you can access. So yeah, I think it's an important way of framing innovations.
Amazing. And like always, I ask every single one of my guests who is someone that they admire, who's creating a new version of tomorrow that they find very inspiring. So, Martina, I'm going to put you on the spot and come to you first.
At the moment, I really, really like the work of Marta Santambrogio. She's a textile designer and she's also a professor of the textile design at NABA. NABA is a art and design university here in Milan. And she teaches students from the mastery in fashion and textile. Specifically, she leads a class on futures thinking. So she's really equipping students that come from a quite traditional background of like fashion design and textile design, which is very much focused on the product, on the aesthetical quality, visual qualities. She really teaches them to kind of move beyond this thinking and put new tools in their toolbox. For example, speculative thinking, critical thinking, imagination, and to really approach the industry from a future perspective. Because this industry is reflecting the shifts that are happening in society that we just discussed. And so it's going to be radically different in like 5 to 10 years. So when these students find themselves in the high of their career, they're going to need these skills because the industry they're going to operate into is going to be radically different. And this is very beautiful because the long-term impact of her teaching is really transforming the fashion and design industry and is really preparing and educating this new generation of designer. Because, of course, as the world is changing, we also need to educate our talents and our innovators to think differently and to equip them with the skills that are needed in this new environment, including the fashion industry.
And what about you, Rosie?
I was also going to reference a professor as well, Professor Rachel Armstrong. She's a professor at KU Leuven and a pioneer in the space of architecture and regenerative futures. And she's really thinking or incorporating living technologies within the built environment, implying characteristics of biological systems, and also establishing new ways or new aspects or designs for living materials such as mycelium or microbial fuel cells. And she also really uses a speculative design language or design visual language to kind of showcase what these might look in the future as well.
Thank you to my guests, Martina Rocca, Foresight Lead at WGSN, and Rosie Broadhead, founder of SkinSeries, a textile research and development company. If you're a WGSN subscriber, look out for more trends at WGSN.com. And if you're not a subscriber, please come and discover our services. We'll be back with our next episode in 2 weeks' time. In the meantime, you can catch the CEO of WGSN, Carla Buzashi, next week on our other podcast, Lives of Tomorrow.